So this video is basically going to be a precursor to my manager series where I go through different managers and analyse how they would set up Manchester United before looking at who I would actually go for in the summer. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on that series. But I'm going to be talking about 5 different attributes that I'm going to be considering when judging who I actually think should be United's next manager. Now I should say I've actually done a Patreon podcast where I go through my favourite managers of all time. You can get a 7-day free trial, so I'll leave a link in the description just in case you are interested. But if you like me are a fan of football nostalgia and you want to reminisce about the days where we didn't have to constantly be looking for new managers, go over to Jersey FIFA and check out all their Manchester United retro jerseys through the 90s and 2000s. If you use code Atlantis at checkout, you'll get a discount. A link will be in my Instagram bio, which I will leave linked in the description. So what do Manchester United actually need from their next manager? Well, first of all, they need to be able to work under a director of football and be willing to focus more on the coaching of the team rather than having a massive role in recruitment, which would of course rule out the likes of Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte. Now obviously the manager or the head coach, whatever term you want to use, is going to be involved in recruitment, but rather than just suggesting players that they want to sign, it will instead be the likes of Dan Ashworth and maybe someone underneath him like Paul Mitchell, who have the main job of identifying players to fit into the manager's system. Rather than Ten Hag saying he wants Anthony, Lisandro Martinez and Andre Onana, instead the manager under Ineos will identify the roles in his system that he needs and the attributes that are required, wherefrom the director of football and recruitment team will then bring in the players. But you still want a manager who has a good talent ID, as it just makes the process work better if the director of football and the manager are in sync. In this case, the manager can then be given a transfer veto, basically having final say over which players are actually brought into the system. The problem with Ten Hag is that his talent ID is so woeful for incoming and existing players in the squad that you can't really put faith in his final decision, which is a massive issue. Secondly, United need a manager that is tactically flexible. Yes, you can have a very effective primary system both in and out of possession, but if you are wedded to that system, eventually opposition teams are going to work out how to stop you progressing the ball forward, how to congest the areas of the pitch that you want to exploit, and how to find holes in your defensive setup. And so having a manager who is capable of adjusting his system, not just between games but also in game, is absolutely vital for any elite level manager. And this is one of the main criticisms that can be levelled at the likes of Ten Hag and Tuchel, who haven't adjusted tactically to how the game has progressed in the 2020s. The capability to use different systems of play both in and out of possession is what I'm looking for. Moving from a 4 at the back to a 5 at the back defensive shape to stop opposition overloads is something that has been highly effective for teams like Inter Milan and Bayer Leverkusen this season, with most teams using a front 5 with 2 players in the half space. Managers who only use back 4s have a significant disadvantage from a defensive point of view unless they alter their system in a specific way to counter the overloads, which is something I'll come on to more when discussing Unai Emery. Thirdly, tactical IQ is another attribute I'm looking for, and what I mean by this is can a manager successfully adapt to the coming tactical changes in the future, because of course football isn't stagnant, it's always evolving, and managers who are top level tactical managers in 2024 can fall behind very quickly if they aren't able to recognise the changing tactical trends and come up with solutions to counter them, but also how to incorporate these tactical trends into their own system as well. Fourth is man management and player development. The ability to manage big egos is a must at any super club, particularly Manchester United. Whether you like it or not, the best players in the world have egos, and as seen with the likes of Zidane and Ancelotti at Real Madrid, being able to manage those egos and get the best out of them on the pitch is ultimately what is needed to win a Champions League and get to the upper echelon of the football tree. Sir Alex Ferguson managed big egos throughout his whole time at United, from Cantona to Beckham to Ronaldo and even Rooney. The notion that managers don't need to be able to manage big egos is just a fantasy. In every sport, in every industry, the people at the top have egos. If you want to manage anything at the top level, you need to know how to use those egos to get the best out of those players in a football context. If you're constantly falling out with players, you aren't going to last long at the top. But it's not just about keeping players happy, it's also about developing players and taking them to the next level. You can't just sign 10 world-class players. It would cost an absolute fortune. You need to develop players from promising potential into top-level talents, enabling them to then refine their abilities to then become world-class. Ten Hag hasn't been able to do this, as but for Dalot and maybe Højlund, there's no one that you'd say has massively improved from where they were due to Ten Hag using them in a specific tactical role or developing certain areas of their game. Now people may point to Garnacho, Mainu and Højlund, but I think this is more down to their own individual abilities, even though Ten Hag should still get some credit as well, but I actually think under a manager who has a consistent record of developing players, these three get even better. But in regards to Dalot, Ten Hag has used him perfectly, something we wouldn't have seen from him probably under Ole. However, this proves just how ridiculous the concept of always saying the players aren't good enough is. It's the manager's job to make the players better. Yes, obviously for some individuals it may be down to their own work ethic and ability, but throughout a whole squad, especially this United squad, there should be more players by now who look capable of starting in a title challenging side, and under the right manager I think we see that happen. I've been saying for almost a year now that Dalot has the capabilities of being the best fullback in the league. Most people said it was ridiculous, but that's because the average fan has an inability to see a player's progression. Just look at how Arteta took Martinelli and Saka from just promising young talents to crucial attackers in a title challenging side, putting up goal outputs of around 15 each in the Premier League last season, or how Jurgen Klopp transformed Wijnaldum and Henderson from what most people would have considered average top 6 players into all-action central midfielders who were crucial to the functioning of Klopp's press and ultimately Champions League and Premier League winning players. Guardiola with Zinchenko, Stones, Rodri, Bernardo Silva, etc, etc. And when I come on to Roberto De Zerbi with a few specific players, you'll see this even clearer. Fifth and final on my list is charisma. Now this isn't the be all and end all, but I always feel at top clubs, particularly Manchester United and even Real Madrid as well, having a manager who has a certain aura about them, around the players at the training ground, as well as in press conferences, can give you that bit of the edge, specifically during tough and pressurised points in the season, with early Jose Mourinho, Klopp, even Pep and Arteta all being great examples of this.